Alright, so we have this pathogenic bacteria invading through the open wound, and all these neutrophils, they do degranulation, they do phagocytosis, they clear the infection at the localized area. Now this releases all these antigens, all these chemicals from this protein, or from this bacteria. So dendritic cells, what do? They take the surrounding proteins and antigens and all these polysaccharides, they bring it in, they sample the surroundings, and now they go to the lymph nodes. What did they encounter in the lymph nodes? They encounter naive T and B cells. So now they're going to display all these antigens they found from the infection site of the infection and this pathogen. They're going to display this pathogen's antigens out to the T cells and B cells. These naive T cells and B cells, if they recognize that antigen, again, not all of them are going to recognize it, but the ones that do, they're going to be activated. So again, dendritic cells, they present, plasma cells release antibodies. So again, you go through a selection process until you finally get a match. And then once you finally get a match, a T cell can be activated. It can either be activated to become a cytotoxic T cell. Again, cytotoxic T cells, they recognize a certain type of antigen, especially those that are not part of your body, but the ones that are foreign. So then they start to kill infected cells if they recognize that infected or pathogenic antigen. And then remember, you also have the naive T cells. Not only can they become, so they can either become a cytotoxic T cell or a helper T cell. So and then also B cells. So helper T cells, not only do they help activate B cells, so again, they're there to make sure that provide the final license for these B cells to finally go crazy and become antibody or plasma cells that release antibodies. But again, helper T cells, so this is not the only thing they do, is not only do they activate B cells, they also allow them to proliferate and divide and increase in number as well. And again, they do the same thing with cytotoxic T cells. And again, remember, they make macrophages more powerful. But again, these cytotoxic or these helper T cells do not actively participate in the battle. They're not there to actually encounter the pathogen. But they're very important. Why? Because again, they're there to make and buff all these other cells that help to actually combat against the pathogen. Parts that are part of your adaptive immune response, as well as your innate immune response as well. So again, helper T cells are very, very important. Oh, I know we're over time, so if you have to go somewhere else, then by all means, go again. Everything will be on YouTube later. So again, professional APCs. Again, these are like your professors. They're there to teach T cells that are trying to actually have their final jobs. But again, these T cells need to learn something first, right? They need to actually be well equipped before they can actually accomplish their final jobs. So taught T cells, again, these are these helper T or T cell, or they go from naive. Again, naive just means unlearned. Once they actually bind an antigen, then they become activated, and they can either become cytotoxic T cells or helper T cells. And cytotoxic T cells, again, these are specific compared to NK cells, which are all-arounders. Cytotoxic T cells are recognized only one antigen, and they kill anything that they recognize that antigen with. And helper T cells, again, these are like your support classes. They're there to help teach B cells, but also help things like macrophages and other cytotoxic T cells.